We're currently using the fetchAll method on our PHP data object to load all our products from the database into a variable that resembles our products array. Let's take a look at the documentation for fetchAll and modify our query to make that resemblance even stronger. Load the database.php file in your browser. The fetchAll method returns a two-dimensional array with one element for each product containing an array of second-level elements for the attributes. You'll notice that each piece of data shows up twice, once in an element with an associative key like we've been using, and once with an integer key. This gives you flexibility when working with the data, but we can change this. Let's look back at the documentation for the fetchAll method. The first optional argument is fetchStyle. This controls what the contents of the returned array are. It says we can use the fetch styles in the documentation on the fetch method. Let's take a look over there. Here's the documentation for fetchStyle. Let's see, it looks like there are some possible fetch styles. The default here is fetchBoth. Here it says the fetchBoth style returns an array indexed by column name and zero-index column number. I think that must be what's happening now. This option above it, fetchAssoc, returns an array indexed by column name. That assoc must be short for associative, meaning that we want to fetch an associative array. Those are the keys we want to match the structure of our products array. I won't cover all the fetch styles, but there is one here called fetchNum. This returns an array indexed just by column number. I think that must be the other half of what's happening by default, the half with the numbers that we don't want. So let's copy this value here and pass it into our fetchAll method call as the first argument. We won't be covering objects in much depth, but you should know that these two colons go in between a class name on the left and a property or method name on the right. The single arrow, the hyphen and the greater than sign, go in between an actual object and a property or method. But classes can have properties and methods that don't require an actual instantiation of the class. That's something you'll see when using PHP for full-fledged object-oriented programming, but that's an advanced topic that we won't be covering in this project. Let's take a look at all this back in the browser. As you can see, about half of the values are gone now. The values with the numeric keys are gone, and only the values with the associative keys remain. We now have just two attributes for each product, name and price. We have more information about each product in the database that we'll need to retrieve. Let's modify our query to pull in another piece of data, the image URL. Let's save this and refresh it in the browser. You'll see that each product now has its image URL as an additional element. The last two columns we have in our products table are SKU and PayPal code. And there it is. The return value looks enough like our products array to power all of the listing pages on the site. You might still notice some differences. The keys at the top level of the array, for example. Here, each product is automatically assigned an integer starting at 0. In our products array, you probably remember that we were duplicating the SKU as a key instead, 101, 102, 103, and so on, instead of 0, 1, 2. We did that originally for the shirt detail pages, so that we could take the key and easily find a specific shirt in the product array. With a database, though, we won't need to load all the products into an array first and then look for the right one. There's a better way to get just the data we need for a specific shirt. We'll also need to get sizes in here for the shirt detail pages, but we'll tackle all of that shortly. We have now written the code we need to retrieve the product information from the database for the listing pages. We're now ready to look at what it will take to move this code into our project files and integrate it with the main Shirts for Mike site.